Welcome to the Hey Docs podcast with your host, Jill Allen. Today I am joined by special guest Brian Wright from New Patient Group. In this episode, we are talking tech and how it can improve your growth. From changing your mindset to being mindful of the technology and systems you are bringing into your practice, we're covering it all. So let's get into it. Hey Docs, on this podcast, I talk about a lot of different ways you can set your practice apart. But here's one that might surprise you. Maybe you haven't thought about it before, but the equipment you use can make a big difference, not just for the patient experience, but for you and your team too. That's why I want to let you know about a new line of orthodontic equipment from ADEC. I visited their headquarters in Oregon earlier this year to take a sneak peek for myself, and I have to say, I was impressed. ADEC has manufactured award-winning dental equipment for 60 plus years, and they're bringing that same level of excellence to ortho. From comfortable, compact patient chairs to a versatile workstation and delivery to ergonomic dental stools, ADEC orthodontic equipment is designed for a smooth and easy workflow. Day after day, patient after patient, see the difference it can make for your practice. Click the link in our show notes to learn more about ADEC orthodontic solutions. We all know running and growing an orthodontic practice isn't easy, and technology is supposed to help you, but oftentimes your practice management software doesn't. Some of them are even clunky and need lots of third-party add-ons. That's why I recommend Greyfinch to my startup and existing clients, because Greyfinch is different. Greyfinch is an all-in-one web-based platform that saves you time and boosts your client base, productivity, and bottom line, with no downloads or third-party software needed. It even has tools you can't find anywhere else, like televisits, two-way email and text messaging, a patient self-service hub, and much more. Want to see how it can grow your practice? Visit greyfinch.com/Jill Allen and see why countless leading practices have made the switch. Brian, I am so excited to have you on Hey Docs. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, appreciate you having me. Look forward to a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way I like to start off is for you to tell us a little bit about yourself in case somebody doesn't know who you are or what you do, and a little bit about why you started a New Patient Group.
The background on myself is a little crazy. Sometimes I don't even know how I am where I am, but start from the beginning. Went to University of Maryland. Long story how I even ended up there, business degree. Fought with the professors the entire time there because during college, I had already had a multi-million-dollar company. So everything the professors that have never owned a business in their life were saying, I argued with them. So I got through it, got the degree, but it wasn't easy. I guess that's what serial entrepreneurs do. We argue with everything, try to change the status quo. I was an umpire in professional baseball for a few years. I played in high school, played my whole life and got hit in the head with a line drive, started having seizures from it. And it ended my playing career because they put me on medication that really jacked my hand-eye coordination up, and got into umpiring. Ended up being something I loved. I was good at it, made it all the way to the minors for a few years. That 3 years in professional baseball probably did more for what I do today than anything I've ever done. Things work out for a reason. I've had several companies, life coaching companies, business coaching companies, combination of both. And then I ended up being CEO of a company called Shea, and we grew a one location practice out of Los Angeles to 250. When I sold my shares out of that company, I started New Patient Group 12 years ago in November. I just do for others now what I did for my own practices that allowed us to scale with quality, both clinically and non. We did it without advertising. We never spent one nickel on advertising to grow it. And what we do today with New Patient Groups, just what I used to do for myself, and we do it for other people. That's the quickest background I can.
Love it. That's awesome. And how fun, one entrepreneur to another, just to see how things move. I love what you said. Like, you don't, from being in the baseball side to, I think you just have to look at everything and think, I can make something out of this. If you get stuck in, oh my gosh, I can't play baseball anymore, versus look what this has done for me and where it has led me. Sometimes looking in the rearview mirror can be a really good indicator of what I was able to do with it versus getting stuck looking in the rearview mirror.
I was pretty frustrated at the time. When it happened, I was all roses and, everything's going to be great. I was pretty infuriated. For baseball fans out there, the kid that actually hit me in the head, Ty Garner, is one of my best friends growing up. His dad, Phil, he was the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, Houston Astros. We used to go on road trips with Phil all the time and go in the clubhouse. And it was a great baseball upbringing, if you will. But when it happened, it was pretty rough. I was in a deep, dark place, but came out of it quickly. I think for a lot of people from a business owner standpoint, it's the same way. We all have years where we're punching ourselves, wondering what the heck's going on with the growth or whatever, the turnover, whatever it is. The best entrepreneurs, when challenged, spend their time pondering the why, and a lot of good solutions can come from it if you think like an entrepreneur. And I don't think a lot of people do it that way. I think a lot of people complain. I found in this industry, because we have a pretty big following outside of orthodontics and restaurant owners, things like that. And I have found in orthodontics that a lot of the docs will complain about the same problems that any business owner has. Turnover, people wanting a cheap price. What you find with entrepreneurs a lot of times outside of the healthcare space is they look at those as ways to grow, learn from it, but they also invest in solutions to fix it. In this industry, a lot of times they'll complain about these problems. I think they think it's isolated. And I say this, everybody listening, my best friends are orthodontists. They stay at my house. I know their kids. We cook together. Our customers are our family, and they're some of my best friends. But you all think, as you live in this bubble, that these problems are just for you, and they're not. The difference is most entrepreneurs will invest to fix it. You all spend time with your friends complaining about it, but then when the solution is staring you in the face, you won't invest in it. I think that's a big thing mindset-wise that this industry needs to change, because the more they become commoditized, where you enter in Italian food and 8 restaurants pull up within 15 minutes of your house or your office, that's what's happened to orthodontics. They see an Invisalign commercial, they hit Google. And when that happens, you have to run everything differently than if you're the only game in town. I just wish more minds would think that way.
What great insight in regard to that. And I love that you are giving some analogies and talking about thinking about things outside of our industry, because I could not agree with you more. I do think we get so closed in and we're so singly focused versus really thinking about, okay, these problems from, like you said, employees to turnover to all of the things. This isn't just our industry. It's happening all over the place. And if we can take our cues from outside of the industry, I think that makes a difference. That leads me into thinking and talking about having a growth mindset and what we need to be doing as listeners are listening to us, what they can be doing to maybe help with thinking about, okay, how can I evolve myself, evolve my mindset in correlation with success for my practice? Because I do think, especially right now in 2024, a lot of docs are, gosh, I'm not growing as much as I was or I should be, and I think they just get dug in, head down, and woe is me. What am I going to do? There's all these DSOs and OSOs out there, and it's the end of our industry. And I just totally do not agree with that. And I think so much of it has to do with mindset. And I know this is a big thing for you. Would you mind talking a little bit about your perspective on this?
Yeah, I look at all of it as an opportunity. The only competition all of you have out there is yourself, period. And that you have a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. In this industry, for years, a lot of you could open up a clinic, be a fantastic clinician, and you were going to dominate. And that was for years the way it was. And I think a lot of orthodontists think maybe that was the golden age. I think today is the golden age of orthodontics. I see it with our new patient group customers. About 80% of them are having their best year ever. That's without advertising. The problem, and this is such a multifaceted answer in the sense that I see, first of all, the corporation route. So the worst thing all of you can do out there is try to be one. And what I mean by that is by lowering your price or trying to spend on advertising. You can't outspend them. And the worst thing you can do is try to become them. Orthodontics, because 90% of what makes up your practice is exactly the same as a restaurant, is exactly the same as a law firm. Any place where I could choose between 20 options, 90% of what goes on in orthodontics is the same thing that goes on everywhere. One of the things that bugs me is when I speak on stage, very common question I ask is, who in here is in a people business? And everybody raises their hand. I think some people feel obligated to raise their hand, whether they believe it or not, because there's so many people that raise their hand. But the question becomes, what events are you taking your teams to? And it's commonly events stuck inside your bubble, rather than taking your team to entrepreneur events, hospitality, people that have true expertise around the psychology of the consumer. They don't do that in this industry. It's just stuck inside the bubble. This is why whenever the economy's down, you aren't growing, you aren't efficient, or you feel stressed at the end of the day. All of these are decisions that you are making. And this goes back to the growth mindset, is those people believe talent is not static, is that it's something that's developed. Your leadership skills, trained skill set, your sales skill sets, trained skill set, culture. I could go on and on. Understanding the psychology of the consumer. For all of you out there, it's important to know you have to know what to say, when to say, how to say, and why to say. You could say the same words, but say them at the wrong time, and they either have no impact or they have an impact that moves your brand backwards. Where if you reverse that language at a different time, somebody that said, let me think about it, all of a sudden is buying from you at a high price. The reason this industry, and it's the same way in COVID, is that they're running a business where you think the solution is advertising. You think the solution is pay-per-click. I see this a lot too, where someone's dropping $5,000, $8,000 a month in pay-per-click, but they think that investing inside their doors for leadership training and sales training, all that, they think that's expensive. And it's just insane. But it's the same way if you go into the restaurant world. 99% of restaurants aren't spending money on what's actually going to grow them. It's the same way in orthodontics. If you have a growth mindset of saying things like, and this is the same thing with the infinite mindset. If you say to yourself, what can I do today for my customer, for my patient, that's better than yesterday? What can I do for my employee experience today that's better than last month? If these are the questions you're constantly asking yourself, you're going to be fine regardless of economic conditions. The worst thing you can do is spend money on advertising when people don't have money to spend. That's crazy to me that people think that's the solution. You've seen it. These practices have 3 to 10 new patient no-shows a month, depending on their side. We have the data that if you're a 30 new patient a month practice, you're missing 3 to 5 new patient calls a month during regular business hours when you're fully staffed. Just those two things represent $100 to $200 plus $1,000 of lost revenue that you all have coming in right now, but it's not like your Invisalign bill. It never goes in and comes out, right? So you don't feel the pain, so therefore you won't fix it. This is the part that I passionately and aggravatingly talk about, is that these lost opportunities are all staring you right in the face. If you would just invest in them, you're never going to have to worry again. But it all comes back to, do you have a growth mindset? If you have a fixed mindset, you are never going to make a move to invest in what you really need.
Yeah, such good insight there. I talk to doctors that I'm working with. I talk about that's our really low hanging fruit in our practice. It's those missed opportunities, like you said, that are just right there in front of us. It could be missed because, like you said, just not picking up the phone, or team members not being trained, or understanding the importance of returning that email or text immediately, or thinking that one task in the practice has more importance than another, when we know, you and I both know, the bloodline of your practice are the new patients, getting them in the door and into conversion. It's that whole that is so essential. What I love is that we are definitely, and with your company, you help a lot with this. If we don't have the team members that can do it, there are companies out there, people out there that are trained to be able to help us with that. And I'm curious if you could talk about what you would advise doctors from a system standpoint, like you said, looking at some of these low-hanging fruit opportunities and how maybe even technology can help us with that. I so agree with you. I love what you said about it's so easy for docs to say, hey, I'll spend $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 on all this paid advertisement, but I don't even have somebody that will respond or answer the phone correctly. Or I don't maybe have a TC in place that really understands and knows how to convert those patients into a start or follow
follow up with them if they don't start. Would you mind just talking a little bit about that?
So every famous company goes by the exact same definition of customer service. What I'm about to lead into has a point that'll get back to what you were just referencing and asking. I think customer service is the most misunderstood terminology in business by far. I don't think there's a close second. And I'm about to explain why and then make a point. All of you should ask your employees, what does customer service mean to you? And you're going to get a different definition by every single person. And then you're also going to get some people say what she said, right? I agree with her, right? So you're going to get a combination of those two things. The problem is that when you have a different definition throughout your whole organization, you're never going to accomplish it. And for those of you who fully understand that you're a people business, you have to be a great clinician, just like a restaurant has to have a great chef and produce wonderful food. But all the other things in the restaurant, how the waiters make you feel and how they know how to sell and get you to buy the $300 bottle of wine instead of the glass of water. There's an art to all that. It all comes back to the definition of what customer service actually is. And that's when all of you get what you want from your prospective customer, your new patient, as they're shopping around and as they call you, leading up to them signing the contract. And more importantly, getting what you want after they sign from your existing customers, new patients, existing patients. But meanwhile, the prospective customer and the existing customer believe they receive more than expected from you. All of you need to first understand that if you don't get what you want, your patients aren't wearing the aligners, they're no-showing you, their hygiene sucks, whatever it is, you are not a customer service organization. It's hard to hear because being a customer service organization has nothing to do with being nice, right? That's not nothing to do with it, but that's one ingredient of a 1,000 ingredient recipe that the Ritz-Carlton, the Montage, the Gordon Ramsay restaurants, the Bobby Flay restaurants work so hard on accomplishing the definition that I just said. And if all of you can start there, you then need to apply that definition to every interaction throughout the consumer journey. One, culture. How do you get what you want? By delivering your employees more than expected, right? Big part of it. That's leadership training, all kinds of things there. Then digital marketing. At that moment in time, when somebody types in Invisalign into Google, clear aligners or braces, how can you get what you want by delivering more than expected, right? Digital marketing can also be used in a wonderful way for your existing patients to get them to be compliant, which we'll probably touch on at some point today, maybe. And then also for your people that have scheduled, how can you use video marketing to get them to show up, right? Which is what you want. You want them to schedule. You want them to show up. You want them to show up excited, ready, prepared to buy, excited to buy from you. Then you have after the call's over and before they come through your door. And then you have when they do come through your door. You have to map out. And this is so new patient, this is exactly what we do. We map it all out up to sale, and then we map it all out after sale. We apply these sales and mark all these things to every interaction. When that happens, you reduce no-shows. Many of you out there, you hire somebody and they're the lowest paid and least trained sitting at your front desk, when literally that position is your treatment coordinator. It is just as important. I've got data that if you teach the receptionist how to sell and stop using it as a data collection tool where you ask 40 questions on the new patient call and then send them paperwork that asks the same questions. That's the opposite of being a people business. If you get away from that and use the receptionist as a sales machine, and you also change what the norm is after the call is over and before they show up, you'll reduce your no-shows by 30 or 50%, starting in just a couple months after getting good at what I just discussed. If you reduce your no-shows even 20%, you'll grow $100,000 this year if you just focus on that kind of stuff. We're big believers in remote monitoring. I don't understand anybody that looks at it and doesn't use it. It provides more efficient clinical results. It gives people more appointments at the convenience of their schedule. And all the bias against it is exactly that. If you're using things like that and your receptionist is selling its value on the new patient call and you're sending them videos during that dead time before they show up, this is how you separate yourself and make yourself unique when people are shopping and scheduling at 3, 4, 5 practices. If you ask yourself, and for some of you out there, you do this, where you have a culture where if somebody doesn't buy from you because they want a cheap price, you badmouth them, right? It's a price shopper. We don't want them anyway. First of all, they should be shopping because they have 5 or 10 choices within 10 minutes of their house. So they're idiots if they don't shop. It's your job now, when you're commoditized like that, to learn how to sell why you're $2,000 more expensive. And when you set everything up A to Z and you're the same as everybody else, which you are, if your team doesn't have these hospitality, sales, psychology, verbiage, presentation skill sets, you are not going to be able to charge more, even if you're the better clinician. If your team is trained on all the things I just described, you're going to be able to charge more than the best clinician in the country whose team is not trained on those things. Yeah. And it's the same thing in the restaurant industry. An average chef will destroy a great chef if the waiters know how to sell. This is the exact same thing, everybody. You are in sales, and all that means is you have to be a great educator that knows how to put more value on you compared to other people. And it's something I think everybody should embrace. And you need repetitive, ongoing training, not just from your bubble. That's where going to sales events and hospitality events outside of your world. That's why we created MPG Iconic at our training facility here in Colorado Springs. It's an hospitality and sales and leadership event that we have 3 times a year that is completely nothing to do with orthodontics. We put them through restaurant examples and life coaching examples and just transform their skill sets so they can go back and apply that inside the practice environment. It was probably a long-winded answer to your question, but it's I could go on forever.
As you are talking through this, I'm agreeing over and over in my head, like this is so true. And again, depending upon the life cycle of where a doctor is at, whether they're a startup or they've been doing this for a while, or maybe they're towards the end of their career, I think everybody should really be taking note of this information because, like you said, we are in such a different era of orthodontics. It is easy for patients to find us now and to have multiple opportunities to get out there and figure out what type of experience they want, who do they want to have a relationship with, and even just the crowdsourcing component of it. Like with restaurants, one friend tells another, oh, I love this restaurant and they were so great. The waiters are amazing. I'm a huge foodie. We go and pay good money for good restaurants, but it isn't for the food. It's for the food is great and I'm a foodie, but it's for the experience, the entire experience from the minute I walk in that door to the way, just every component of it to the very end when you're leaving with your nightcap. We spend a lot of money for that experience. And I think that I truly believe that patients and parents are not just looking for that show up and I'm going to have great straight teeth. They are really looking for that total package experience. And we're going to continue to see that year after year, I think, within our industry.
The restaurant example rings. So all of you think about, this is something we have on-demand courses about, we coach to. Imagine going into a restaurant and you sit down, the waiter comes up, and before you have anything, no water, no drinks, nothing, they hand you a $500 bill, table for 2, right? And you've got to pay that bill before you're allowed to touch the food or order the drinks or anything. All of you in orthodontics, you're handing them an expensive bill and they don't get to taste your food at all. It's like an airline charging you once you landed. So you have to ask yourself, and this is a drill we do all the time with the team.
Are you feeling the squeeze from declining starts and cash flow as costs continue to rise? Building on their industry-leading patient acquisition, insurance management, and collections solution, Orthofy is delivering groundbreaking innovations to keep your practice thriving. Orthofy's latest feature, iMax, allows you to maximize every insurance claim submission, adding tens of thousands of dollars to your annual production. Plus, with the game-changing combo of FPT10 and third-party financing, Orthofy is making it even easier for patients to say yes to treatment while ensuring steady cash flow for your practice. Orthofy's commitment to your success in today's evolving orthodontic landscape is why I recommend them to my clients, and right now is the best time to get started. Visit startmoresmiles.com and use promo code HeyDocs to get 50% off your implementation. Hey docs, did you know that October is Substance Abuse Prevention Month? As you may recall, this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart because I believe at some point in our lives we will each know and love an addict. And through all of the pain and chaos, we just want to see them heal. But finding help is hard, and reaching recovery is even harder. That is where 180 Ministries comes in, a faith-based recovery program that offers life-changing support to individuals battling substance abuse and addiction. With locations across Colorado and Utah, they provide a safe, compassionate program predicated on hope and healing for men and women and for mothers and children. That is why I am featuring them on the show, because I know that our dental and orthodontic community can help make a difference in the fight for relief. Whether you are seeking help in recovery or are wanting to make a donation towards this amazing cause, visit 180ministries.net to learn more about how you can help support this incredible mission. Let's join together to turn lives around one step at a time.
Okay, if you know the bill's coming before you're allowed to taste any of the goods they have, what are the things you would have to do as a restaurant to get them to go, okay, $500, that's worth it, before they taste anything? It goes back to how your digital marketing looks like. And imagine a restaurant having a live camera feed from within inside the kitchen, right? And when you scheduled there for the first time, the chef sending you a welcome video that says, welcome to the family. I'm Chef Brian. Let me take you through a tour of the kitchen, talk about how we source the food. When you call, how that call goes. And before you show up and when you show up, how the manager is there to greet you. And is a welcome tour through the menu, and how the waiter comes up and interacts and sells the specials and makes you feel. Yeah. Nobody would disagree that those things would have to be on point and unexpected. If they're going to get you to spend $500 before you taste anything, they're going to have to deliver you the unexpected the whole way, right? Yeah. This is you, everybody. That's why you can learn so much from outside your bubble. You can learn more by going outside of your bubble. Those restaurants, if they can master what I just said, it's the same thing with our teams. When we work on the restaurant skill sets with orthodontic team members, that is how you drive your conversion up at a high price. Yeah. But no advertising on the planet will allow you to charge more. No advertising on the planet will reduce your no-shows. No advertising on the planet will build a better culture. But that's what people in every industry still gravitate towards. A lot of you out there are lucky because the leaky holes we're talking about, the no-shows, the conversion, all the stuff we're talking about. If you took those leaky holes, and this is why 80-90% of businesses go out of business, in the entrepreneur world, outside of the healthcare bubble, we can't get away with these holes, right? You've got to plug them. Otherwise, you're not going to be around tomorrow. Yeah. And if all of you want to know about competition, try doing what Jill and I do for a living, right? You want to talk about competition. I don't even want to hear the three orthodontists down the street. We're the epitome of living in the hotel world. If we had these holes, we would be done. All of you are lucky because you're in a space where you can have all these holes and still bring home $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. And I think that right there is the biggest reason why this space won't invest in what they really need. I see this a lot, and I'm going to say what I'm about to say because a lot of you out there are my best friends. But this is going to be, I don't know, harsh or whatever you want to call it. The reality is this.
That's good because we got a good sound person and he can cut this. Were you going towards pay? Because my mind is thinking investing in employees. I don't know where you were going.
I was talking about them going out of business. I remember.
All right. So start with the reality or whatever.
Do you need me to go like 1, 2, 3 so they have an edit moment? We're good? Okay. Yeah. A lot of you complain about things about patients, right? Non-compliance, no-shows, price shoppers. The things that you complain about, or here's an even bigger one, is that the ones that come in and they want like a social shit and you're frustrated that they don't want the whole case, right? You're bad mouthing them inside your office. That's how you run your practice, right? You nickel and dime companies trying to run a high-end business that produce a big investment for you, right? You go with the cheap company that's on paper cheaper, but the company sucks and they don't produce the return the more expensive company would be. You're not compliant a lot of times. You hire companies to help you and then you don't do what they say.
Yep.
You're complaining about the patient. And if that's another thing that if you can flip that and you become compliant and you learn that a cost and an investment is very different. Like your management software and your average employees, they keep you open today, but they do nothing for you tomorrow. Your investments run your business for you today, help you put it on autopilot and grow you tomorrow. Those are your rock star employees, outsource partners, remote monitoring, Jill Allen and us. We are not costs. We are investments that produce a much higher return than any stocks. Nobody would look at a stock and go, that's expensive. I'm going to buy the cheap one. Right? You're not going to buy the cheap one because that's cheap for a reason. Every once in a while, you'll get lucky, but those stocks are cheap because the leadership team sucks and they're most likely never going to grow. They have a great leadership team. They're innovative. They're constantly ahead and keeping you ahead. You just keep dumping money into those and you're going to make a ton of money. That's your business. You can't look at it any differently than a stock, right? When I buy Invisalign from you as a doctor, my investment's in you. I could get Invisalign anywhere, but in the wrong hands, the aligner's not going to do the job. When you invest in us, you're investing in us, our mind, our innovation, our leadership, our customer obsessed culture. Those are the companies you have to spend your money on. And if you do, you're going to be fine. It's just not the way a lot of people look at it. That's why I think a lot of people's websites, their digital marketing isn't that great. They do the same things as the other 100 practices you monitor. And it's because they're not investing in true innovation to teach them how to stand apart. It's unfortunate because I see all the ways they can grow, but instead they sit there and complain and spend money on things that they shouldn't spend money on.
Yeah. And I agree. I completely agree with you on this. And I do think it is because we get so caught in that bubble where I feel like a lot of times doctors are just chasing, well, this person is pretty popular in my Facebook group that I'm, following, and they're saying to do this, so therefore I should be doing that. But they're just totally overlooking the other components of, that could be great, but is that really going to help you with what you're ultimately looking to do?
And that's such a good point. I've already shot it. I don't know when it's going to come out, but on my new patient group podcast, I've shot something and it's a series. It's about how your clinical peers are sabotaging your success. And when the podcast starts, I immediately say, this is not intentional, right? It's not like they're getting up on stage going, how can I put you under? This is an unintentional thing. And this is why you all going just inside your bubble, it drives me crazy because there is a doctor in the first part of the series that goes around teaching doctorless exams. I have had customers go see him and not tell us they've implemented it and their conversions tanked. The reason the conversion tanks is because what this doctor doesn't tell you on stage is they are the cheapest priced of all the 5 opinions. That's their model, right? So they have to see a bajillion people to make the money they want to make. He doesn't tell you that on stage. They will bottom barrel the price and go down. If they make $1, they're going to get you to sign the contract. With that model, you need to see a lot of people. So of course you have to do doctorless exams. You don't have time to wine and dine them, right? That's one. And then 2, if you are like what our customer almost always is, they're the highest priced of 10 opinions, or they're at least close. That's what we teach. If you're going to be the highest price, the edification of you on the phone call, the digital marketing content, all the things you do experience-wise have to be very different than the guy who's doing doctorless exams charging $3,000 for Invisalign. And this is the problem when you sit in an audience and watch a clinical peer. They're going to teach you things they do and think work without any regard to the business model you want to run. And you said it, like, I'm going to watch a big name on stage and then I'm going to go back and do it and it's going to work. It's bull. And they don't tell you that on stage. It's like the clinical speakers that show their brilliant cases, but they never show you the ones when they first got started and that weren't that good. The journey to get to the brilliant. That's such a horrible thing to do as a speaker, because all you're doing is intimidating the people that may have started with Invisalign a week ago, and you're up showing a case that scares them. It's the same thing when they're talking on the business side. You have to do a dream life exercise. It's not rocket science, but nobody really does it. You've got to put down what you want out of your life. right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and you get all kinds, I want to spend more time with my grandkids or my kids, or I love to yacht or sailboat or whatever. I want more time to do that, whatever the heck it is. And then you've got to look on the business and you've got to say, what about my business is keeping me from doing that? And then you do the reverse, where it's like, what do you want your business to be? Low stress, high growth, highest priced. And then what in your life is keeping that from happening? Because I see a lot, like spousal issues affect the doctor's leadership skills at the office. Maybe the husband and wife work together and that's like sushi, where you either love it or hate it. Like that either tends to go like really, really well, right? Or it's a total mess. I've never asked anybody, hey, do you like sushi? I don't think I've ever heard anyone go, yeah, it's okay. Sometimes it's either, oh, no, or man, it's amazing. It's my favorite food. That's the husband-wife combination. But until you have that on paper, you can't make strategic adjustments and install things into your business to get what you want out of your life and vice versa. And I see this a lot where I want more freedom, less stress, a smaller team, yet they do analog braces. And I can tell everybody the only way you're ever going to do analog braces and achieve what I just described is hiring associates. Associates can be harder to deal with than team members for all kinds of reasons. So if you want more time with your kids and more freedom, and you want a smaller team and a more efficient business, you've got to do clear aligners. It's that simple. Digital braces would be another great option today too, or a combination of both. That's how the clinical business, life, everything, it all intertwines. And it's a great exercise we do with the employees too. A lot of the hourly employees feel stuck, right? It's, I'm an assistant and I've been here 10 years and there's really nowhere else for me to go. When you get into that mindset, it can start affecting your work performance and you can show up as a grump. Her name's Christina. This was years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago in a practice. We had our first on-site and I was in there. You have to understand a lot of times the employee that you're most frustrated with, the reason they're not performing a lot of times is because of you. And this story proves it, and the culture that you have in your organization. I asked her, hey, how do you like working here? She went off in a good way. It's amazing. The doctor is incredible. We have meetings together. The office manager always is giving us the tools we need. And if we do something wrong, she's, hey, this is a growth opportunity. We'll do it at our next meeting. The team members love each other. I'm so great with the patients. Later, I asked the office manager about Christine, and she said, yeah, she's the best. Like if we lost her, God help us. Christina also said, this is a part-time job for me. So there's another couple days a week where I'm working at another practice. And I go, how do you like it there? And she goes, I hate it. I'm miserable. The doctor's a jerk. The office manager is always trying to catch us doing something wrong. I'm a habitual late shower. I hate going in, so I'm always showing up late. I'm bad with the patients. And sure enough, that's exactly how the office manager described it, because I picked up the phone and had a conversation with her. The lesson here, if you have a great culture and you understand leadership is a trained, ongoing skill set, you're going to get Christina in your office. If you suck as a leader and you don't understand that leadership and culture is your number one marketing investment, you're not constantly working on that and getting better. It's really hard for leadership team members to understand that leadership is not, again, back to the growth mindset. It's not a static thing. It's something that you're always pursuing how to get better at conversations and motivation and how to make other people better and advance their career. So many people in this industry, and it correlates with the people that struggle too. I've seen it when people bring us aboard. A lot of our names, this is something I'm really proud of. If you look at the dental monitoring speakers, the Invisalign faculty, the speakers for OrthoFi, almost all of them are our customers. And they look at things just like Guy Fieri, Bobby Flay, and Gordon Ramsay do in the food world. They look at things very differently. You would think most people in the restaurant world, you would look at Gordon Ramsay and learn from it and understand how to apply that to the type of business model you want to run. Same thing in ortho, but that's not what happens. Like 99% still go rogue, and it's the pay-per-click and the advertising and all this stuff. And then they wonder why it's chaotic and there's no shows and they're not growing. And it's mind-boggling. But when you go back to the leadership piece, those big names in the industry understand that when we come aboard, a lot of practices are already growing. We're hired a lot of times. Like if you want to grow, we can grow you. But a lot of times we're hired to make it more fun, less chaotic, just train my team members on skill sets that are always going to improve our brand, no matter what the interaction. It's the infinite minded off paper things that you can't put your finger on.
Yep.
A lot of times are what we're hired for, because those are the hidden opportunities that your management software is not going to print out to you. But the majority of people when hired want to grow and they're struggling. The culture's a mess. The team members don't like each other. The office manager's a jerk. They don't spend time together. It shows you why culture is always your number one marketing investment, but very few minds when they're struggling or even doing well think, I want more new patients, or I want our conversion to go up 5%, or less no-shows, whatever it is. Very few go, let's work on the culture. Right. Those are always the most forward-thinking people, and it takes longer, right? The pay-per-click can drive you some phone calls tomorrow. The culture is going to take a while, but the pay-per-click is the Band-Aid. The culture fixes the wound.
So as we finish up here, one of the things I would love is a big part of our audience is startup docs, younger doctors that are definitely not we've got all of our core people in place and we're just really looking to take it to that next level. They are in those infant stages. It's a brand new doctor. We've maybe got less than 5 employees, probably more like 1 or 2. I'm curious if you could quickly give 1, 2, 3 things that a new doc who may not be yet at that next level could just do as like take home, okay, I can at least do these 3 things. Maybe it's investing in themselves. I'm curious what you're going to say there.
We have a bigger and bigger residency following on my podcast and that come into my mastermind group. And the number one thing, and this is really for everybody, but certainly if you're coming out of school or you just opened, is be proactive. We are a reactive animal, man. We get heavy, we lose weight. Our marriage goes to hell, we seek counseling. We lose money, we try to make money. We are so reactive, it's crazy. And it causes a lot of hiccups in the practice. Like a lot of times patients are not compliant because you're not proactive in your conversations and how you educate, right? You wait till they fall off the wagon to try to get them to stop drinking. And there's so many examples of this. And this was a couple of years ago, I was speaking at a national event. I don't want to say the company's name because of the story I'm about to tell, but they had an expert panel. And this also goes back to, you got to watch who you're speaking or watch what you are listening to, who's speaking on stage. There's like 5 doctors, and the doctors were all talking about how great their practice is. And if you just do this, everything's going to be fine. And this is why I'm using remote monitoring, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the day before that expert panel, all 5 of those docs were at my booth and complaining about how much their life is a mess and their practice is a nightmare, right? This is who's talking to all of you on stage, is the quote unquote expert, but not admitting on stage what a nightmare things are. And a lot of the reason they're nightmarish is like with remote monitoring. Implement it day one. Do not wait until what most people do is, oh my God, I'm maxed out chair time, or I'm chaotic, or my team's driving me crazy, whatever it is. I better implement remote monitoring. It's too late. Like it'll still work, but it's going to take you 2 years to see the true benefits. When if you just invest before all the chaos happens, you're good, right? Be a high share to chair with clear aligners from day one. And Dr. Sean Carlson's in San Francisco just opened up a new one. I think it's him and one other person. And I think this, so 1, proactive, 2, don't overhire. The standard way is let's have this big team and pound our chest at AAO and brag about our chaos to my friends. And that's been the industry forever. One of the things, and we don't require it, but one of the things we teach is a 1 to 2 employee per $1 million of revenue model. We have a customer that does 40 areas, 4 employees. We have Bob Skopak. A lot of people know that name. He's speaking a lot now. He was $2 million with 2 employees. Now he's $3 million, I think, with 3 employees. There are ways to do this, but the job descriptions have to be different. You have to know how to outsource properly. And outsourcing would be my third one, is outsource from day one. And that's part of being proactive. I guess that could have been a bullet point, is have a smaller practice. You don't need 20 chairs. Outsource to the right companies to replace humans that are going to do it better. And for employees watching out there, to finalize this, that does not mean we want you to lose your job or get fired. What it does mean, when you're a parent and you have 2 kids, it's a hell of a lot easier to be a leader and a good parent than it is if you have 10. Right. So we want the rock stars to stay inside the practices and the doctor to spend time with those rock stars, pay them really well where they're never going to get paid anywhere else, change the job description, make them executives, and use outsource partners the rest of the time. And if you do that day one, you are not going to have the headaches and the lost opportunities all these other practices have, whether they want to admit it or not, if you just start there and do those things. And I think you'll be great from day one.
Yeah. And this is exactly what I advocate for with my startups is there is never a better time to put systems in place than when you're starting up a practice. I always say, pick your custom bracket, pick your aligner company, pick your phase one company, and then just go in and get your systems in place, your remote monitoring, all of that. Because like you're saying, there is never an easier time, and you don't have to go through that adaption process where now you've got team members that are fighting you that don't want to implement something. And we've done it this way for so long, doctor, you're making me nuts. I don't want to do this. All of that. If your systems are in place from the beginning, you've picked the right third-party companies to partner with from the beginning. I, again, advocate for small teams. I totally agree. Gone are the days where we need just these air quote teams because usually more people, more headaches. I'm sorry, but that's what it comes down to.
That's one of the cost versus investments. I guess we can leave it with this exercise that we put all the customers through. Because you imagine a cross or a plus sign on a piece of paper, and in the upper left, you have fixed costs, and in the lower left, you have variable costs. And on the right side, you've got fixed investments, and then you've got variable investments. And this is for all of you out there, but it gives you a real good opportunity if you're new to get ahead of this, is that you cannot be an accountant and you cannot be an MBA, right? Those people are trained by professors that never own a business. They never own a business in their life. And you're an entrepreneur. You made the decision to own your own business, right? So you got to act like one. And part of the goal is you should want to grow every year while working less. Otherwise, you should go work for somebody else, right? So a lot of times when you look at data sheet, if it said I brought home 500,000 last year and this year I brought home 500,000, to a corporation, you're stagnant. To an entrepreneur, if you brought home 500,000 this year like you did last, but you worked 30 days less, that's growth, right?
Yes.
That's growth, a lot of growth. And when you look at it that way and differently, and you put your costs separate from your investments, you have to do it because on paper, if you outsource, even if you have a small team, sometimes your overhead can be higher, right? Because some of the outsourced partners, ones I speak for, DM, OrthoFi, Invisalign, like those bills, right? And then my Right Chat New Patient Group or Jill, whoever it is, a lot of times we can be more expensive than an employee. And the mistake, though, is that on paper, we are. But we're also going to produce an investment on your time, your efficiency, your headaches, your chaos, your growth, et cetera, where the employee is not, right?
Yep.
And then the employee, even if great, they're going to leave at some point and you're going to go through the whole freaking cycle again. Mm-hmm. So you cannot look at paper and go, this is too expensive, right? What's too expensive is your lack of conversion, your cheap price, your no-shows, your culture not being where it is. That's expensive. And it's just a whole different world of looking at numbers. And I think this is why we have a lot of big names in the industry, is this entrepreneur brain brought inside the healthcare bubble just to make sure everyone's looking at things, in many cases, the opposite they ever have before.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great way to leave us. So Brian, I'm wondering if you can I'm sure there's lots of people that are listening. Okay, I got to call him. I got to find out more. Give us a little information on if somebody wants to contact you, get a hold of New Patient Group. What's the best way that they can do that?
Sure. I think first, New Patient Group podcast. We're on all the outlets. Anybody that we talk to when we're doing consults or whatever you want, a consultation, whatever you want to call them, we always direct them to the podcast because we have about a 99.5% customer retention rate, which in this industry we're very proud of it. And part of the reason we do is we bring aboard-minded people. And if you listen to the podcast and we're in season 7 and you listen to season 7 and you hate it, you shouldn't spend time with us, right? You could listen, but you shouldn't be a customer, right? That's going to be a bad marriage. But if you listen to it and you're like, this makes sense. Like, I get it. Makes total sense. You should be a customer. So I think the New Patient Group podcast is a great way to start. And then just newpatientgroup.com. We have Calendly's on there where you can pick your time in your day and you can meet with us. And there's ones on there where you meet with the team. And then there's certain podcasts you listen to where I put my own Calendly link on there. And one of the really popular things that we offer right now is just an on-site work. It's an all day, it's like a day and a half on-site workshop where we guarantee a 6-figure growth plan. And that's actually me that comes out. So we go to 2 dinners, there's 2 Zoom sessions. There's a lot of really cool things that come with it. It's a scalability problem. So I can't promise that if you want it and buy it you can buy that on the website, that we can even do it right now. But I want to throw that out there too. But all the info is on newpatientgroup.com, and I look forward to talking to everybody. I appreciate you having me on. This is stuff that we could talk about forever.
Yes, we could. Yes, we could. Yeah, this has been great. And again, I appreciate you being on. You've just given, I know my audience, just a huge wealth of information in a short amount of time. And I think everybody's wheels are, spinning, especially knowing that we've got a lot of new startups on here. And the goal is growth. And the goal is we are in the process right now of setting up what's the experience, what's the culture going to be like. And again, just all my docs out there, there is never a better time to get this in place than right now. You're in the beginning first years of business versus
it's
trying
hard to be proactive.
Yeah.
But it's harder to be reactive. That's the catch to it. That's the catch to it all. Is it's a lot of work now, but it saves you so much time. Down the road. Yep. So hopefully everybody takes the proactive approach. And I'm going to say this: pretend you're a $500 table for 2 restaurant. That's what I want you all to do. Think about, and you've all, now your employees haven't, which is part of the experience problem, is when we're trying to install real experience to a team that's never been to a Ritz or a $500 table for 2, that's a hard disconnect.
Yeah.
But docs out there, you probably have. And I want you to remember how the digital marketing was and the ambiance and how you were greeted and how the waiter interacted with you. All of those interactions, you have the same journeys. And if you just get your mind out of orthodontics and onto the people first business you all are, and study these amazing people businesses and put those experiences into your practice, you will kick everyone's butt. But that's how you have to think. It's just that simple. And because only 1% of you will do it, that's why it makes you so unique. You're shopping five practices. The one that commits to this, they are going to win at a higher price. And just get your mind out of the bubble.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Hey docs, let's talk about Smile Suite, because it's not just another scheduling system. It's a game changer in the world of new patient management. And as a proud Smile Suite partner, I've witnessed the incredible impact it has on practices of all sizes. Smile Suite means your new patient calls and web leads are expertly handled 7 days a week, even during nights and weekends. And they offer top-notch customizable presentation software and seamless post-consultation follow-up. It's like having a secret weapon for your practice's success. Curious? Dive into the revolution at getsmilesuite.com. And don't forget to mention Hey Docs to unlock some extra goodies. Elevate your practice with Smile Suite, because every smile deserves a suite of excellence.
All right, the way I like to finish up Hey Docs is to do a little speed round. Are you ready to do a speed round with me?
I don't know what the questions are, so we'll see.
That's even better then. All right, so what's your go-to productivity tool?
My go-to productivity. Is this for what we do for customers, or is this in my own life?
Just your own life.
Audiobooks.
Oh, mine too. I love it. All right, early bird or night owl?
Both, which is a sleep problem. So I get up early and I stay up late.
All right, what was the first job you ever had?
First job. I think I was a delivery man. My first one. I was either a pizza delivery guy for Jay Christopher's in Kingwood, Texas, or I can't remember if that came first, or I worked at a cigar shop in Kingwood, Texas when I was in high school as well. It was like a pipe higher end place. I can't remember which one was first. So it was either one.
That's awesome. All right. What would you say has had the most impact on your professional life?
2 things, and this is a 3-hour story in itself. My janitor in Bear Branch Elementary School, which is a lesson for all of you, that all of you are in a leadership role, because that lady, I remember like it was, we forget things that were 2 days ago. I remember my janitor from my elementary school for all kinds of reasons. Her and being an umpire in professional baseball. That has done more for confidence and verbiage skills and the amount they practice with you behind the scenes to handle conflict resolution and the authority. I could go on and on. That has done tremendous stuff for my career.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then what's one business skill you think everybody should have?
Growth mindset. That solves, I could sit here and tell you, be a great educator, verbiage, like all that stuff, but it all falls under a growth mindset. If you don't have that and it doesn't start there, you're never going to go do audiobooks or want to learn and role play. So growth and infinite mindset for sure.
That's great. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for being on Hey Docs. And I hope to have you on.
I appreciate you having it. It was great. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thank you.